International Economic Organizations 1. The European Union (EU). Introduction. The main aim of this study session is to let you understand the European Union, that is the EU, and its relationship with Africa, among others. At the end of this study session, you should be able to understand the formation, development, aims and objectives, and achievements of the EU. Also, you are expected to understand the benefits of the EU to African states. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to describe the formation and development of the EU, mention the aims and objectives of the EU, states the achievements of the EU, and states the benefits of the EU to African states. The European Union (EU). The First and the Second World War, waged from 1914 to 1918 and 1939 to 1945 respectively, saw the political and economic destruction of European nation-states. The Europeans thus feared a Soviet imperialism should they remain in their current state. The Europeans believed that in order to achieve rapid growth and development in Europe, a better European economic integration must be established. More so, they believed that an economic integration of certain core sectors of their economies would reduce the tendencies of the European nations to wage war among themselves. This prompted the Schuman Declaration on the 9th of May 1950, which proposed the creation of the European Coal and Steel Company, ECSC. Following the Treaty of Paris of the 18th of April 1951, the ECSC was established. The ECSC created a common market in coal and steel between the 6 founding members, which include France, the Federal Republic of Germany, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. The success of the ECSC was a motivating factor behind the establishment of a European Economic Community, EEC. The founding members took bolder steps towards the formation of a common market that will cover all segments of their economies. Therefore, on the 25th of March 1957, following the Treaty of Rome, the member countries established the EEC and the European Atomic Community, Euratom. The formation of the EEC saw the abolition of custom duties on the 1st of July 1968 and further creation of common policies in the agricultural and trade sectors. The success of the organization and the benefits of getting hold of European community markets led Denmark, Ireland, and the United Kingdom to join the organization in 1973. More so, Greece joined in 1981, followed by Spain and Portugal in 1986. By this, the European community's presence in Southern Europe was reinforced. In 1989, there was a dramatic change in the political landscape of European states following the fall of the Berlin Wall, which led to the unification of Germany in October 1990 and the entrenchment of democracy in countries in Eastern and Central Europe following the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 and the departure of countries who were part of the Soviet Union. Within this period, a novel Treaty of European Union was adopted by the European Council at Maastricht in December 1991. The treaty, which came into full operation on the 1st of November 1993, established the European Union. The reinvigorated European community and the increasing prominence of the organization in the region informed the decision of countries such as Austria, Finland, and Sweden to join the Union on the 1st of January 1995. In 1999, the EU made significant achievements by the formation of a single currency, that is the euro. After the ratification of a single currency by member states, notes and coins were made available to 12 countries for financial transactions. Today, the euro has become a major currency for payments and reserves. In the mid-1990s, countries that were formerly part of the defunct Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or the Soviet Union, were making frantic efforts to join the Union and benefit from its economic policies. These include Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. Moreover, 3 Baltic states, who were also previously part of the Soviet Union, such as Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, one of the Republic of former Yugoslavia, that is, Slovenia, and 2 other Mediterranean countries, Cyprus and Malta, were also making concerted efforts to join the Union. On the 1st of May 2004, the EU absorbed these countries except Bulgaria and Romania, which later joined on the 1st of January 2007. The values, objectives, and principles of the European Union. Article 2, Section 1A stipulates the values of the European Union. These include respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, including the rights of persons belonging to minorities. These values are common to members in a society in which pluralism, non-discrimination, tolerance, justice, solidarity, and equality between men and women prevail. Article 3 enumerates the objectives of the Union. These are: 1. The Union's aim is to promote peace, its values, and well-being of its peoples. 2. The Union shall offer its citizens an area of freedom, security, and justice without internal frontiers, in which the free movement of persons is ensured in conjunction with appropriate measures with respect to external border controls, asylum, immigration, and the prevention and combating of crime. 3. The Union shall establish an internal market. It shall work for the sustainable development of Europe based on balanced economic growth and price stability, a highly competitive social market economy. 4. It shall promote scientific and technological advancement. 5. It shall combat social exclusion and discrimination, and shall promote social justice and protection, equality between women and men, solidarity between generations, and protection of the rights of the child. 6. It shall promote economic, social, and territorial cohesion and solidarity among member states. 7. It shall respect its rich cultural and linguistic diversity and shall ensure that Europe's cultural heritage is safeguarded and enhanced. 8. The Union shall establish an economic and monetary union whose currency is the euro. 9. In its relations with the wider world, the Union shall uphold and promote its values and interests and contribute to the protection of its citizens. 10. It shall contribute to peace, security, and sustainable development of the earth, solidarity and mutual respect among peoples, free and fair trade, eradication of poverty, and the protection of human rights, in particular the rights of the child, as well as to the strict observance and the development of international law, including respect for the principles of the United Nations Charter. Principles of the EU. Article 4, Section 3A stated the principles that guards the relationship between the Union and the Member States. These include 1. In accordance with Article 5, competences not conferred upon the Union in the treaties remain with the Member States. 2. The Union shall respect the equality of Member States before the treaties, as well as their national identities, inherent in their fundamental structures, political and constitutional, inclusive of regional and local self-government. 3. It shall respect their essential state functions, including ensuring the territorial integrity of the state, maintaining law and order, and safeguarding national security. In particular, national security remains the sole responsibility of each member state. 4. Pursuant to the principle of sincere cooperation, the Union and member states shall in full mutual respect assist each other in carrying out tasks which flow from the treaties. 5. The member states shall take any appropriate measure, general or particular, to ensure fulfillment of the obligations arising out of the treaties or resulting from the acts of the institutions of the Union. 6. The member states shall facilitate the achievement of the Union's tasks and refrain from any measure which could jeopardize the attainment of the Union's objectives. Furthermore, Article 5, Section 3B stated the fundamental principles relating to competencies, that is, Article 1 to 11, paragraphs 3 and 4, ex Article 5 Tech. 1. The limits of Union competencies are governed by the principle of conferral. The use of Union competencies is governed by the principles of subsidiarity and proportionality. 2. Under the principle of conferral, the Union shall act within the limits of the competencies conferred upon it by the member states in the treaties to attain the objectives set out therein. Competencies not conferred upon the Union in the treaties remain with the member states. 3. Under the principle of subsidiarity, in areas which do not fall within its exclusive competence, the Union shall act only if and insofar as the objectives of the proposed action cannot be sufficiently achieved by the member states, either at central level or at the regional and local level, but can rather, by reason of the scale or effects of the proposed action, be better achieved at Union level. 4. The institutions of the Union shall apply the principle of subsidiarity as laid down in the protocol. 5. On the application of the principles of subsidiarity and proportionality, national parliaments shall ensure compliance with that principle in accordance with the procedure set out in that protocol. 6. Under the principle of proportionality, the content and form of union action shall not exceed what is necessary to achieve the objectives of the treaties. 6. The institutions of the Union shall apply the principle of proportionality as laid down in the Protocol on the application of the principles of subsidiarity and proportionality. In-text questions. 1. What was the motivating factor behind the formation of an economic community in Europe? A. To be economically viable. B. To have a common market. C. To abolish custom duties among members. D. To prevent war among member states. 2. The Union's aim is to promote peace. A. True. B. False. Feedbacks on the in-text questions. 1. The correct answer is D. If you chose option A, B, or C, then you are incorrect because the European states believed that having economic integration of certain core sectors of their economies would reduce the tendencies of the European nations to wage war among themselves. 2. The correct answer is A. If you chose option B, then you are incorrect because ultimately the major aim behind the formation of the Union is to prevent the outbreak of war among European nations. Structure of the European Union, EU. A. The Council of the European Union and European Council. The Council of the European Union. This organ of the European Union is also known as the Council of Ministers. It is the major decision-making organ of the EU. Its members take turns to chair the Council presidency for 6 months. The Council meetings are attended by each minister representing each EU country. The minister that attends the Council meeting is largely dependent on the issues to be discussed. The Council also shares legislative powers with the Parliament and conclude international agreements entered into by the Commission. Decisions are reached in the Council through a single majority vote, a qualified majority vote, or unanimously, depending on the subject matter. European Council. The European Council meets 4 times in a year. The European Council is chaired by the President or Prime Minister of a country holding the presidency in the Council of the European Union. The President of the Commission also attends the meetings of the European Council as full member. The Treaty of Maastricht empowered the European Council to make major policies and resolve issues emanating from among ministers in the Council of the European Union. Through the Common Foreign and Security Policy, that is the CFSP, the European Council speaks with one voice in urgent international issues. B. The European Parliament. The Parliament is a body that represents the citizens of the European Union countries. Its statutory responsibilities entails carrying out political supervision on all EU activities and also carry out legislative process. Members of the European Parliament are elected directly every 5 years through a universal suffrage. In 2008, the number of members of the European Parliament MEP was 785. The European Parliament holds plenary sessions in Strasbourg and additional sessions in Brussels. It comprises 20 committees which prepare the groundwork for plenary sessions. The European Commission. The European Commission carries out administrative functions of the European Union. Its members, which comprise one commissioner recommended by each state, is appointed for a 5-year term under the approval of the Parliament. It is also made up of 46 Director Generals. The Commission is answerable to the European Parliament, and all commissioners must resign if the Parliament passes a motion of censure against it. The Commission ensures that directives and regulations from the Parliament are implemented. The Commission manages the EU's common policies in areas of technology, AIDS, research and development. D. Other institutions and bodies. 1. The Court of Justice. The court, which is located in Luxembourg, is made up of a judge from each of the European states, who are also assisted by 8 advocates general. They are appointed under the recommendation of the member states for a 6-year renewable term. The court ensures that the laws emanating from the EU are obeyed and the treaties are well interpreted and utilized. 2. The Court of Auditors. The Court of Auditors monitors the Union's financial activities. It comprises 12 members who are appointed by a unanimous decision of the Council after consultation with the European Parliament. Its main responsibilities is to check that all funds coming into the European Union are received and its expenditure are incurred in a lawful and regular manner, and to ensure that the EU budget is properly managed. 3. The European Economic and Social Committee, EESC. Members are appointed by the Council for a 4-year term of office. The EESC represents the various economic and social interest groups that make up a civil society. The committee is consulted by the Council and Commission when taking certain key decisions. 4. The Committee of Regions. The committee consists of representatives of regional and local government recommended by member states and appointed by the Council for a 4-year term. The Committee of the Region serves as an advisory body to the Council on members affecting the regions. Its committee also shares its views on issues affecting the regions. 5. The European Investment Bank. The bank is based in Luxembourg. Its main role is to provide loans to less developed regions in the EU, and they also help to make businesses within more competitive. 6. The European Central Bank. The main duty of the bank is to manage the euro and also to manage all the EU monetary policies. The bank is based in Frankfurt. Achievements. The European Union has helped in bringing peace and stability globally. 2. The European Union has also helped spread democracy in the wake of the fall of the Berlin Wall. 3. The European Union has helped the least developed countries and regions grow economically by investing in physical and human capital, innovation, the knowledge society, adaptation to change, environment, and administrative efficiency. 4. For more than 30 years of setting standards, the EU has put in place a comprehensive system of environmental protection. Challenges. 1. The European Union member states have been faced by the problem of immigration with the influx of citizens from former Soviet states and former colonies, and have long tried to curb this influx. 2. Some EU members, namely Greece, Spain, Portugal, Ireland, and Italy, are also suffering from debt loads that will make it difficult to generate satisfactory growth while at the same time instituting fiscal austerity. 3. People are having problems getting access to information. The European Ombudsman report for 2008 says that 36% of citizens' complaints relate to transparency and access to documents. But at the same time, most users of the EU's access rules are businesses rather than journalists, civil society organizations, or members of the public. 4. The EU is with the challenge of European integration. The EU lacks the political legitimacy to undertake major institutional changes. 5. The EU is also faced with challenges of promoting reforms that will ensure sustainable fiscal policies and stifle asymmetric shocks. The European Union and Africa. Prior to the formation of the European Union, there had been an extant relationship between Europe under the auspices of defunct European Economic Community (EEC) and African states. The reception of EEC in Africa has been very mixed, especially in the 1960s. This to a large extent follows the ideological, radical, and conservative blocs. The radicals, led by Kwame Nkrumah, saw the EEC as colonialism in a new guise and labeled it and any European organization formed to provide technical, economic assistance to Africa as neo-colonialist groupings. Essentially, they view EEC as another feature of neocolonialism. This did not deter African states, especially the conservative ones. Since 1962, most French-speaking West African states, with the exception of Guinea, another radical state formerly under President Sékou Touré, and some English-speaking African states associated with the EEC. The political implication of this intercourse between African states and the EEC during this period was disunity. It created problems between radical, that is, anti-EEC, and conservative, which are the pro-EEC African states. Apart from limiting the role which African states can play in bringing about African unity, especially in the economic sphere, this was more pronounced because the nations of EEC also belong to NATO, which involves one Cold War camp. So, association with the EEC at that time also involved military, economic, and political consequences, which are capable of preventing the non-alignment policy which African states professed. However, some African states continued their association with EEC, leading to various agreements. These include the convention called the First Yaoundé Convention for the initial period of 5 years. This was renegotiated in 1968-1969 as Second Yaoundé Convention to come into effect in 1971 for another 5 years. 2 Lomé Conventions, Lomé 1 between 1975 and 1980 and Lomé 2 between 1980 and 1985. The third Lomé Convention in 1990. The Yaoundé Convention established free trade between each associate member and the EEC, but was silent on the possibility of free trade among the Association of African and Madagascar States, AASM. Nonetheless, the consequence of this was the perpetuation of the colonial pattern of African dependency on European markets, finance and capital, as there was little intra-African economic cooperation. Moreover, there were only fragmentary trade agreements between the African states, among others, and the EEC. This has, however, been said to have undermined the solidarity and bargaining power of African states and promoted rivalry and jealousy in their collective negotiations with the EEC. Conversely, the relationship between the EU and Africa has undergone significant transformation. The EU has been playing salient roles in the African continent. It has helped the continent in areas of ensuring peace and security, democratic consolidation, and development. As a result of the incessant conflict in the African states, there have been calls to strengthen African regional security instruments in order to curb these conflicts and consolidate democratic culture in the continent. In response, the EU established the Joint African-European Union Strategy, a comprehensive policy framework which has peace, security, democratic governance, and human rights as part of its principal objectives. With regards to security, the joint strategy has 3 principal pillars: enhancing dialogue on challenges to peace and security, directing the African Peace and Security Architecture APSA, and funding African Union-led peace support operations. At the request of African leaders, the European Union in 2004 implemented the African Peace Facility APF, a €250 million 3-year instrument designed to support peace, security, and development. Although the program was intended to be a short-term measure, when it ended in 2007, it was renewed until 2010 with a further infusion of €300 million. Furthermore, in the areas of development of the continent, the EU has for decades been a partner of the African states in social and economic development cooperations. Following Yaoundé, Lomé, and Cotonou agreements, the EU is SSA's, that is, Sub-Saharan Africa's largest single trading partner, buying an average of 31% of its merchandise exports and providing 40% of its merchandise imports. And the trade relationship between SSA and the EU is important for the region's development. Hinkle and Schiff, 2004. Economic partnership agreements were established to help in reorganizing trade arrangements between the EU and the SSA countries to ensure that they are more efficient and effective in the promotion of trade between the European Union and Africa, which will aid various development goals of the African states. Ombudsman. This is an official appointed to investigate the individual's complaints against maladministration, especially that of public authorities. Study session summary. In this study session, you learnt that the EU replaced the EEC on the 1st of November 1993 and is made up of 27 European states. It was formed to foster economic cooperation and common development among member states. We also learnt that the organs of the EU are the Council of the European Union and the European Council, European Parliament and the European Commission. Other bodies include the Court of Justice, the Court of Auditors, the European Economic and Social Committee, the Committee of the Regions, the European Investment Bank, and the European Central Bank. Initially, African states were divided on membership of the EEC, but later negotiated with the EEC. Moreover, EU relationship with Africa has been transformed, particularly in areas of peace, security, democratic consolidation, and socio-economic development. End of study session 8. Thanks for listening.